what happened. The agents, hey, it's Will Salatan from the Bulwark. So we've now had 2 fatal shootings of American citizens by federal agents in one city, Minneapolis, in the last 3 weeks. And Kristi Noem, the Secretary of Homeland Security, says her agency, DHS, is going to lead and control the investigation of this latest shooting, which again was committed by her own agents. So I want to show you why, even if you're a Republican or a Trump supporter, or if you fully support immigration enforcement, I want to show you why Kristi Noem and her department cannot be trusted with this investigation. And the reason is that Kristi Noem is a pathological liar. What these 2 shootings, see her look at the videos. Okay, so here's the first clip. This is Noem on January 7th, a couple of hours after the shooting of Renee Good by an ICE officer.
You asked about a shooting that we just had in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened, it was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him.
So that's Noem's account of what happened. The agents were trying to push out their car, and a woman attacked them and tried to run them over. Now, here is the video of what actually happened. In fact, this is all the video angles put together by the New York Times to give you the complete picture.
Here, the agent's cell phone footage shows he's moving directly in front of the SUV, as it's reversing and rotating towards him, initiating a 3-point turn, apparently to leave. Law enforcement officers are trained to avoid doing this because it puts them in danger and often leads to the use of force against drivers. The cell phone is focused squarely on Miss Good. She looks down, shifts into drive, and begins turning to the right, away from the agent. The other angle shows he's still standing, continuing to maintain his grip on his phone and his gun, and we see a clear and growing gap between his body and the SUV as he fires a second shot, and a third.
I called it. I said, they're not supposed to stand in front of vehicles. It's common sense. And he was approaching from her blind side. If you were in a regular workplace, you wouldn't get in trouble for that. The other guy would get fired if he lived. After you crushed him, you wouldn't get in any trouble.
So you can see what happened. Noem's story, that this woman attacked the officers as they were trying to get their car out of the snow, is a complete lie. The woman is sitting there in her car as the officers confront her. The officer walks around from her blind side and he puts himself in front of her car. So when she tries to leave, he is trying to block her path. And you can see her turn the wheel to get out. She's not trying to hit him. She's trying to leave. Okay, so you might say, maybe Noem hadn't seen all these videos yet. Well, later that...
No, when they spin their words, it's because all he has to do is say, I felt like I was threatened. But yeah, we all know she wasn't trying to hit him.
She gave another press conference. Did she change her story and admit she got it wrong? No. Here's what she said about Renee Good.
Are you broke as f? Are you looking for the perfect way to set your investment account up for success? Then check out Auto.
Oops.
She then proceeded to weaponize her vehicle, and she attempted to run a law enforcement officer over. This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
No, she's doubling down. She says Renee Good weaponized her vehicle and tried to run over the officer. And again, she called Good a terrorist. Okay, so let's give Noem more time to watch the videos and admit that she got it wrong. Here she is on CNN on January 11th. That's 4 days after the shooting. So by this time, all the video angles are well known. And Jake Tapper gives Noem an opportunity to admit her mistake.
The first thing you said was, quote, what happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow. Correct. Because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. Mm-hmm. That's not what happened. We all saw what happened.
It absolutely is what happened.
This is 4 days later. Noem knows the truth. All she has to do is say, look, the part about how this woman, Renee Good, attacked the officers when they were trying to get their car out of the snow, I was wrong about that. But Noem looks Tapper right in the eye and says that her fake story is exactly what happened. Also, by this time, there was plenty of information about Renee Good. And it was super clear that she was just a mom. She was not a terrorist. But Noem repeated that lie too.
You said within hours of her being killed, you said that she was a domestic terrorist. How do you define domestic terrorist?
She weaponized her vehicle to conduct an act of violence against a law enforcement officer and the public.
And just in case you have any doubt that Noem knew she was lying, here's what she said on CNN about what she knew when she made her original statements.
I had just been in Minneapolis and had been with those officers, had seen what they were facing on the streets every day, and had talked to their supervisors as soon as the incident happened and had gotten the facts and seen videos before I ever went to talk at that press conference.
She's telling you she watched the videos. She knew the truth, but she sits there 4 days later and repeats her lies. Here she is again in the same interview.
I said that your description, they were attempting to push out their vehicle and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle, is not what we see on the videotape, and it's not.
It absolutely is the facts of what happened on the ground that day.
Okay, so that's the Renee Good shooting. Now we have another shooting. This time it's a Border Patrol agent, and he shot Alex Preddy, another American citizen, also in Minneapolis. Here is how Noem described the incident at a press conference on Saturday.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
Wow, that sounds really bad. It sounds like this guy Preddy was nuts. He had a plan to inflict maximum damage. He went after the officers with a gun, and they had to shoot him. That's Noem's story. Now, let's watch the video.
Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Nome said the officer acted in self-defense and claims Preddy approached Border Patrol officers with a handgun. But videos from the scene show that Preddy was holding a cell phone, not a gun, when he was shot.
Video from this white car shows an up-close angle of a federal immigration officer pushing one protester. Then, 3 seconds later, he pushes Preddy, and then as the camera comes into focus, you see the same federal officer push a third protester with the orange backpack. Preddy raises his hand and turns away, just as the officer sprays him with a chemical irritant. Preddy is on the ground under them. One officer in a tan beanie can be seen repeatedly
Watch this again. I wasn't paying attention.
The camera comes into focus, you see the same federal officer push a
So that Preddy was holding a cell phone, not a gun, when he was shot.
Video from this white car shows an up-close angle of a federal immigration officer pushing one protester. Then, 3 seconds later, he pushes Preddy. And then as the camera comes into focus, you see the same federal officer push a third protester with the orange backpack. Preddy raises his hand and turns away, just as the officer sprays him with a chemical irritant. Preddy is on the ground under them. One officer in a tan beanie can be seen repeatedly striking Preddy's head with a metal can. Then, gunfire.
Huh. I didn't see a gun there. He's not holding a gun. He's holding a phone. And his other hand is empty. There's no sign at all that this guy intended to do maximum damage to anybody. Now, to be clear, Preddy did have a gun, like millions of other people who are usually defended by conservatives. He had a license to carry a firearm, but he never pulled it out. As you can see in the video, the officers attacked him and they pulled out his gun. And then after they disarmed him, while he was pinned down on his back, they shot him dead. But according to Noem,
then finished him off.
Assaulted the officers.
This individual showed up to impede a law enforcement operation and assaulted our officers. This is a violent riot when you have someone showing up with weapons and are using them to assault law enforcement officers.
She's very clear. She says Preddy showed up with weapons and that he used his weapon to assault the officers. And then she says he brandished the weapon.
This individual went and impeded their law enforcement operations, attacked those officers, had a weapon on him and dozens of rounds of ammunition, wishing to inflict harm on these officers, coming brandishing like that.
Brandishing? Do you see Preddy brandishing a gun in these videos?
I mean, most people my age don't realize that AI will create more millionaires in 5 years. Now, it can build.
Preddy comes face to face with a federal agent.
All of America's seen that. How is anyone ever going to get a fair jury when Kristi Noem comes out and says all this shit? That's not true.
And puts his hands up.
Preddy raises his hand and turns away, just as the officer sprays him with a chemical irritant.
And then Noem used the same word she used against Renee Good. She calls Preddy a terrorist.
The White House has labeled the man who was killed in Minnesota as a domestic terrorist. Is that something you agree with? And have you seen any evidence to back up that
perpetuate
claim?
violence against a government because of ideological reasons and for reasons to resist and perpetuate violence? That is the definition of domestic terrorism. This individual who came with weapons and ammunition to stop a law enforcement operation of federal law enforcement officers committed an act of domestic terrorism. That's the facts.
No, those are not the facts. Here is what Fox News reported about Alex Preddy. He was a nurse who took care of military veterans in the ICU. But Kristi Noem does.
Yeah. I think it could be faked. I think it could all been staged. I think our government has a foreign influence that we've been kissing the butt of all these foreigners that I'm sure another country sent its spies in. I got another theory. It's that we're so naive here. All the other countries that have been around forever and are used to corruption, they came here and brought their corruption with them, taught all our Minnesotans how to do it. Or did it to us Minnesotans, I should say.